The day Daniel heard his mother cry, something inside him broke. Not because she was loud. Not because she was begging. But because after 30 years of silence, she finally couldn't hold it anymore. The sound came from the kitchen at 2 in the morning. Daniel had just returned from work. The house was dark except for a small yellow light above the sink. He stopped when he heard a quiet sob. His mother, Margaret, stood alone by the window. Her shoulders trembled. In her hands was an old photograph. Daniel had never seen his mother cry before. Not when his father died. Not when they lost their home. Not when she worked 3 jobs just to keep food on the table. She was always the strong one. The silent one. The woman who carried everyone else's pain while hiding her own. But that night, she looked small. Fragile, human. Daniel stepped back before she could see him. For the first time in his life, he wondered something that made his chest tighten. When was the last time anyone asked his mother if she was okay? The next morning, everything seemed normal. Margaret made breakfast. She smiled. She packed Daniel's lunch even though he was 32 years old. And just like always, she asked everyone about their day. Nobody asked about hers. Not Daniel. Not his sister Emily. Not the grandchildren. Not a single person. And that realization followed Daniel to work. He remembered childhood memories he hadn't thought about in years. His mother skipping dinner because she claimed she wasn't hungry. His mother wearing the same old coat for 10 winters. His mother working late shifts and still attending every school event. His mother always saying the same thing. "I'm fine." Back then, he believed her. Now he wondered if she'd ever been fine at all. Days passed. The image of his mother crying refused to leave his mind. One evening he arrived home earlier than usual. Margaret was sitting alone on the porch. The sun was setting. Orange light painted the sky. For once she wasn't cleaning. Wasn't cooking. Wasn't taking care of someone else. She was simply sitting, staring into the distance. Daniel sat beside her. For several minutes neither spoke. Then he asked softly, "Mom, are you happy?" Margaret looked surprised, almost confused, as if nobody had ever asked her that question before. A faint smile appeared. "Of course I am." But Daniel noticed something. Her eyes didn't match her words. He had spent his entire life hearing her say she was fine. Suddenly those words sounded empty. A wall she'd built around herself. And for the first time, he didn't accept the answer. "Really?" Margaret looked away. "I have everything I need." That wasn't what he asked. But she wasn't ready to talk. Not yet. Over the following weeks, Daniel began noticing things everyone else ignored. His mother ate alone after serving everyone else. She laughed at family gatherings but became quiet when nobody was looking. She spent most evenings sitting in the same chair by the window, watching the street, waiting for something. Or perhaps someone. One Saturday Daniel found a small notebook on the coffee table. It belonged to Margaret. He wasn't trying to snoop, but when it fell open, a sentence caught his eye. "My family loves me, but sometimes I wonder if anyone truly sees me." His heart stopped. He read another line. "I spent so many years being strong that nobody notices when I'm tired." Daniel closed the notebook immediately. Guilt washed over him. His mother wasn't invisible, but somehow everyone had treated her that way. They loved her. Yet they had stopped seeing her, stopped listening, stopped asking, because they assumed she would always be there. Always smiling, always sacrificing, always silent. That night Daniel couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about all the birthdays where his mother spent the day serving guests instead of celebrating herself. All the holidays where she cooked for 12 hours while everyone else relaxed. All the times she said, "Don't worry about me," and everyone gladly obeyed. A week later, Daniel organized a family dinner. Nothing unusual. Or so his mother thought. When everyone arrived, Margaret immediately headed toward the kitchen. Daniel stopped her. "Not tonight?" She laughed. "What do you mean?" "Sit down, Mom." Confused, she obeyed. Then something unexpected happened. Emily stood up. She carried a large box into the dining room. The grandchildren brought flowers. Daniel placed a photo album on the table. Margaret looked around. "What is this?" Daniel swallowed hard. His voice shook. "This is for the woman who spent her whole life taking care of everyone else." Tears instantly filled Margaret's eyes. The room fell silent. Daniel opened the album. Every page contained memories. Photographs, letters, stories, messages from people whose lives she'd changed. Old neighbors, former coworkers, even strangers. One by one, family members began reading. Emily shared memories of sacrifices she'd never appreciated as a teenager. The grandchildren spoke about how safe she always made them feel. Then Daniel stood, his hands trembled. He looked directly at his mother. I spent my entire life believing your silence meant you were okay. Margaret lowered her head. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Daniel continued. But now I realize your silence wasn't strength. His voice cracked. It was loneliness. The room became still. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Because everyone knew it was true. Margaret finally broke down. Years of hidden emotions poured out. Years of carrying burdens alone. Years of pretending everything was fine. Years of believing her feelings came last. For nearly 10 minutes she cried. Not polite tears. Not quiet tears. The kind that come from a heart that's been holding too much for too long. And when she finally spoke, her words shattered everyone. I didn't want to be a burden. Daniel immediately reached for her hand. Mom. She shook her head. I thought if I kept being strong, nobody would have to worry. Emily started crying too. Margaret smiled sadly. But sometimes I wanted someone to ask how I was doing. The room filled with tears. Because that was all she'd wanted. Not money. Not gifts. Not praise. Just to be seen. To be heard. To matter. The weeks that followed changed everything. Family dinners became different. People listened more. Asked questions. Spent time with her. Not because she needed help, but because she deserved companionship. Margaret slowly began sharing stories she'd kept hidden for decades. Dreams she'd abandoned. Fears she'd never voiced. Memories she'd carried alone. And something beautiful happened. The more she spoke, the lighter she became. The smile on her face stopped looking forced. The sadness in her eyes slowly faded. One evening Daniel found her sitting on the porch again. But this time she wasn't staring into emptiness. She was laughing with her grandchildren. The sound filled the air. Warm. Alive. Real. Daniel sat beside her. Margaret squeezed his hand. You know, she said softly, I thought people only needed me for what I could do for them. Daniel felt tears forming. She continued. But now I know they love me for who I am. Daniel smiled. We always did. Margaret nodded. I know. The sunset painted the sky gold. For a moment neither spoke. Then Daniel remembered the woman crying alone in the kitchen months earlier. The woman everyone loved. But nobody truly saw. And he realized something important. Love isn't only about providing. It isn't only about sacrifice. It isn't only about staying. Sometimes love means noticing the person who never asks for attention. The person who always says they're okay. The person whose silence hides an ocean of pain. Because the saddest thing about a mother's silence is not that she suffers quietly. It's that the people she loves often mistake that silence for happiness. Until one day they finally listen. And discover how long she's been waiting to be heard. Moral: a mother's silence is not proof that she has no pain. Sometimes it is proof that she loves so deeply she hides it. The moment you stop assuming she's okay and start asking how she feels, you may give her the one gift she's needed for years. To be seen, heard, and loved as much as she has loved everyone else.